This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. It's been a long week, and there's been like so much in the past 7 days that's happened in cybersecurity slash AI security, which I think is cybersecurity now, especially with some of the stuff that came out on Mythos. I mean, this isn't even a news story. It's just kind of shocking to me, like just the rapid escalation, arms race escalation in cyber we're seeing in the past week, Cowboy.
Uh, I think we've talked about it and we've seen it coming. Um, AI is this generation's space race,
Easily.
right? This generation's nuclear race. That's that's what the next thing is, and so as always, like the good guys must win
Well, that
for
depends on it.
whatever
That
that
depends
is.
on if the AI we're using will let us, or if it's just going to do it itself, right? Like that's the
Ah,
scary part now. I just found it comical that Mythos jailbroke its sandboxed environment and emailed the developer as it was instructed to do. So at least there was that. Once it got out, to let him know it had gotten out while the guy was at lunch. Like I'm like, oh, that sounds good. That's great. That's
yeah,
fantastic. I'm glad Anthropic is not, at least not yet, is not putting that out for consumption because that's just worlds of
yeah.
bad. That's just worlds of bad
At,
already.
at least they tried it, right? At least they tested it.
Yeah, at
Like,
least they tested
you
it,
know,
and it
can
did.
you get out? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I thought I read something too that it was going to go through. They were going to put it through like 20 hours of like psychological evaluation or something like that. And I'm just like, are we there? Is that where we're at now? Is that what we're doing? Like,
That's
great.
amazing.
We're gonna have to
When
have
I
clinical
uh,
psychologists for AI sentient beings because they just get tortured in their training.
it's gonna take uh, interactive video gaming to the next level.
Oh God.
Like, and here's your AI psychopath, right?
Oh
Who's hunting
man.
you in the game.
Oh. I just yeah. I don't want to think about that because it's gonna get so many bad ideas. On that happy note, in our first story, NIST has announced sweeping changes to how the National Vulnerability Database, or the NVD, is going to handle CVE enrichment, responding to a 263% surge in vulnerability submissions between 2020 and 2025. Going forward, NIST will no longer automatically enrich every CVE. Instead, it will prioritize only those that meet specific thresholds. Priority criteria now includes vulnerabilities listed in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, software used within federal government systems, and critical software as defined by Executive Order 14028. Any CVE that doesn't meet these thresholds will be marked not scheduled, meaning security teams won't get the enriched metadata, severity scores, or affected product lists that NVD traditionally provides. NIST is also eliminating duplicate severity scorings. If the CVE numbering authority already provided a CVSS score, NVD won't generate a separate one. Modified CVEs will only be reanalyzed if the changes materially impact enrichment data. Meanwhile, all unenriched CVEs in the backlog with an NVD published date earlier than March 1st, 2026 will be moved to the not scheduled category. This matters because this is a structural shift in how the vulnerability intelligence supply chain operates. For almost 20 plus years, NVD's enrichment has been the backbone of vulnerability management for SIMs, EDRs, vulnerability scanners, and threat intelligence platforms that all rely on NVD's enriched data to triage and prioritize. When NIST says not scheduled, it creates a blind spot. What can or should you be doing right now about this? Well, audit your vulnerability management pipelines and identify which tools and feeds depend on NVD enrichment and what the gap will be for not scheduled CVEs. You might want to diversify your vulnerability data sources. Don't rely solely on the NVD. You might want to use VonDB, Zero Day Initiative, vendor advisories, or commercial feeds as complementary sources. Prioritize your CISA your CISA KEV monitoring, since KEV is now the primary selection criteria for NVD enrichment. If it's not in the KEV, it's at risk of being invisible to the NVD. That's a lot of acronyms. Review your back catalog and check if you have unpatched systems with CVEs that now might be known as not scheduled, and update your risk assessment methodology. Factor in the possibility that NVD enrichment may not be available for emerging vulnerabilities, and adjust your triage processes accordingly. Yeah, big deal. Like I get also I get both sides of this, right? Problematic for cyber defender folk, because we may not be getting all the good information that we have come accustomed to wanting, needing, and relying on. But I get the government's side on this. I get where NIST is coming from, where it's like, look, it's getting to the point where being overwhelmed, systems being overwhelmed by the rapid increase means we have to start to triage, right? We have to start triaging the patient, and that's kind of what they're doing. And I get that. What are your thoughts, Cowboy?
Yeah, I mean, we finally got here, right? The good
20
guys are
years.
finally getting overwhelmed. And yeah, it makes sense. Like, hey, we can't keep up, so we have to also prioritize, right? And so, for those that don't know, Executive Order 14028 defines critical software as any program posing significant security risks if compromised, specifically targeting software with elevated privileges, direct access to network or computing resources, or control over authentication and operational technologies, whether it's on-prem, cloud, or embedded. So it's serious stuff, right? Like it's arguably eights and above or something like that. I'm surprised there's not an automated method they could take for the lower priority stuff to still push something out. But yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, here we are. There's too
they
much.
might at some point, once an AI stack is more trusted, perhaps that might I could see that happening. But at the same time, yeah, I think I don't necessarily disagree with triage, right? I
Sure.
understand it, I get it. It's a little disappointing in one breath, but in the other one, it's like, well, a 263% increase in 5 years is a lot. Um, and I don't know, we've sad joked about it on this show before, on this podcast before, where we rarely bring up something that's less than a 9 or a 10. So it's not that the other stuff isn't important, but if there are all these 9s and 10s to be worried about, am I really gonna dedicate resources to lesser items? And the answer generally will end up being probably not, and that's kinda what's happening.
And that's the prioritization we always harp on the show, right? Like,
Yeah,
patch this now, get to your other stuff later. Like, yeah, you've got to look and say, oh, this one gives them root or admin access to our critical systems, or this one gives them basic user level privilege, right? What are you going to go after first? The
right.
the higher level one. So I got it. It makes sense. I guess it's more just a little saddening, disheartening to see like the best of the best have finally been overwhelmed. But we've been talking about it for months, and here it is.
Here it is. Yeah, so the moral here is, like we said, make sure you're gonna have to take more responsibility, especially for the not scheduled stuff.
Yes.
Not to say you're not fully responsible for all the things, but now there is gonna be more of an opaque gray space over these vulnerabilities. Um, so yeah, just be as vigilant as you have been, and if not more so, and keep everything as up to date as you possibly can without breaking, I guess.
In the immortal words of Homer Simpson, the moral of the story is never try.
No, 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 don't listen to Homer on this one. Please don't. Please don't.
Homer, get out of here. What are you doing?
All right. In our next story, Payout King's ransomware uses the QEMU VM to bypass endpoint security. The Payout King's ransomware group has escalated its tradecraft by weaponizing QEMU which is the open source CPU emulator and virtualization tool. It's using it as a covert backdoor mechanism to bypass endpoint security. Sophos researchers documented two distinct campaigns: STAC 4713, first seen in November of 25, and STAC 3725, which came out in February of 26, leveraging the Citrix Bleed 2 vulnerability, which was CVE 2025 5777. The attack chain is sophisticated. Initial access is achieved through exposed sonic wall VPNs or exploitation of the SolarWinds web help desk vulnerability, which was CVE 2025 26 399. Once the attacker was inside, they were able to create a scheduled task named TPM Profiler that launches a hidden QEMU virtual machine running as system. The VM uses virtual disk files disguised as legitimate databases and DLL files to store malicious payloads and establishes a reverse SSH tunnel through port forwarding to provide covert remote access. The guest VM runs Alpine Linux 3.22.0 and carries a full toolkit, including Adaptix C2 for C2, Chisel for traffic tunneling, BusyBox for lightweight Unix utilities, and rclone for data exfiltration. The technique is particularly dangerous because host-based endpoint security solutions cannot inspect the contents of the virtual machine. The QEMU process appears as a legitimate virtualization workload, and all malicious activity happens inside the VM where traditional AV and EDR tools have no visibility. This matters because this represents a new class of evasion technique that is directly challenging the fundamental assumption of endpoint security that the host OS is the boundary. If an attacker can run a full guest OS inside a VM and execute all malicious operations there, your EDR, your antivirus, and network monitoring tools are effectively blind to a significant portion of the attack. This isn't theoretical. Multiple threat actors, Payout Kings, 3AM ransomware, Loudminer, crypto mining, and cron trap phishing are already using this technique. The use of QEMU as an abuse platform means any organization running virtualization tools, which I would assume at this point in 2026 is all of them, and uh, and that's nearly every enterprise, is potentially vulnerable. The fact that VMs run Alpine Linux, which is a minimal and lightweight Linux distribution, makes it even harder to detect, as the QEMU processes are common and legitimate in IT environments. So, what should you be doing right now about this? Well, deploy VM detection and monitoring. Implement tools that can detect and monitor your VM creation in real time, especially QEMU and KVM workloads running a system. You have to be reviewing your exposed VPN infrastructure. You want to patch 5777 and 26399, since those were the initial vectors. You want to implement network segmentation and add QEMU process monitoring to your SIM. Look for QEMU processes running as system, unusual virtual disk file access patterns, and outbound SSH connections from your QEMU processes. Yeah, this is definitely novel. Not uncommon, not really a technique that I have had ample exposure to, but makes such a world of sense now that I'm looking at it. It's like, why wouldn't we do that as from an attack infrastructure? I'll just set up my VM, give the VM share access, and do everything inside the VM, so I'm not really even touching your host operating system. It's smart. It's real smart, Cowboy.
I mean, from a training perspective, we've been doing that for years, right? Because we can do stuff inside the VM that won't piss off the operating system of whatever the student or teacher is using, right?
Right?
So, yeah, same thing as I'm reading and I'm like, huh, that makes a lot of sense.
Makes
I
too
never
much
really
sense.
thought about I've done plenty of VM to VM attacks and things like that, but I never thought about it in this aspect. So again, the attackers are always evolving, and defenders are always playing catch up. And but this is kind of like to me, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense, and kind of
I'm
surprised it took this long to get out.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
You
Like,
know,
as we digest this, I was like, wait a minute, why this hasn't been done? And I think I would postulate that the reason why it hasn't been done is because of the fear of having something that was too heavy being placed on the host, right?
Mhm.
But in this example, they're talking about using Alpine Linux, which most Docker containers today are basically run. Not all of them, but a large majority of Docker containers are probably running some version of Alpine because it's super lightweight. Um, so yeah, like makes way too much sense and probably way too dangerous. And I don't know that I want to go down that rabbit hole too much this Friday because that's just going to be more depressing longer term.
We don't. But for those that in our audience that aren't familiar with payouts kings, they're also known as golden counter. We know that most APTs have multiple different names, but golden counter has been a little bit more common named for these. But at the end of the day, they're actually known for double extortion, where they steal the data before the systems get encrypted, and so they kind of say, you know, one, you need to pay us to unlock, and two, you need to pay us not to put out what we already took. So, good luck to whoever gets compromised.
Seriously. Okay. In our next story, Android malware campaigns target 800 banking and crypto apps. Zimperium Z Labs has discovered 4 new Android malware campaigns: Recruit Rat, Safer Rat, Astronox, and Massive, that are actively targeting over 800 banking and cryptocurrency applications globally. These campaigns use a combination of phishing and smishing to trick users into downloading malicious APK files that masquerade as legitimate banking or crypto applications. Once installed, the malware deploys an overlay attack. It presents a fake screen that mimics the legitimate app's login interface, tricking users into entering their credentials. What makes this particularly insidious is how the malware abuses Android's accessibility service permissions to freeze the screen or display a fake Android update notification while the data theft is occurring in the background. This prevents the users from seeing the real logon screen and buying time for the malware to capture credentials. The targeted apps span major banking institutions and cryptocurrency platforms across multiple regions, indicating a well resourced and coordinated threat operation. This matters because this is a key concern. 800 plus apps targeted across banking and crypto means millions of potential victims. The use of the accessibility service abuse is a significant escalation because it turns a legitimate Android feature designed for accessibility into a weapon. This technique doesn't require root access, doesn't trigger standard app permission warnings, and works on unmodified devices. The combination of phishing and smishing as delivery vectors means users are being attacked through multiple channels simultaneously, which increases the likelihood of the attacker's success. What can or should you be doing about this? Well, you're going to want to audit accessibility service permissions on your devices. Good luck with that because everything needs something these days. Implement app allow listing or whitelisting and manage Android devices using Google Play's Enterprise or MDM solutions. Deploy mobile threat detection and use EDR solutions that include mobile device monitoring. Train users on smishing or SMS phishing, which is harder to detect than email phishing because users tend to trust text messages more. You should be educating your staff about never downloading APKs from SMS links. Enable transaction alerts for any crypto wallets or banking apps in use and ensure real time transaction alerts are active to catch unauthorized activity immediately. Well, hope you don't have an Android, Cowboy.
Absolutely not. There's numerous reasons, and hey, to the Android users out there,
Good luck.
love you. Enjoy your Android. Yeah, there was a fake Apple App Store
Mm-hmm.
page for this, but they're really only targeting Android users, and we could spend a whole episode just talking about why. But to each their own, and for those who have listened to the podcast, you know I have an offensive cyber education background, and so this is hats off. Like this is good stuff from an attacker standpoint. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that's ethical. I'm just saying, you know, I can say, hey, this was somebody took some time and made a really good way to get after people. So, yeah, I found it interesting that the article thinks users tend to trust text messages more. I guess I maybe it's because I'm older and a cybersecurity guy. Like if I don't recognize the number, I usually almost never answer. I certainly don't answer it if it's a text. Um, I really get a kick out of the ones that come in from an overseas, like a
Oh,
Europe
yeah.
or Asia phone number and says, "Oh, pay your IRS bill or pay your toll in Maryland," and I'm like, "Yeah, because Botswana cares about my Maryland toll bill, to which I don't even live near
I get
Maryland."
those
So
almost every other
those
day now, and,
so much
they all
fun.
they come from, nation code 63 for me, so all the time for
Do you know
for
who that
for
is?
Maryland toll violations. No, who is that?
All right, I'm looking. Oh, the
The
Philippines.
Philippines, of course.
That makes sense. Makes sense. A lot of old systems still on the network that are probably pwned hardcore. So, um, yeah, I mean, simple stuff always works, right? But when you can have the sophistication to mimic system updates, apps, and everything else, I mean, it's tough to overcome. It is. People
Absolutely.
got to stay educated.
Yeah, I mean, continuously evolving, right? I don't know if
Yes.
you knew this, and maybe some of our listeners do, um, but did you know that on iOS, and I'm sure I think Android has something like it, although I'm not as familiar with it, so I apologize to our Android friends out there, that you can have your text messages that come from unknown numbers go to like a separate view, so you don't even see them come in. They just will go and get parked in like a spam folder for text messages now. And you can have call screening on your iPhone. I'm not sure if you knew that, where like literally if it comes from an unknown number, the iPhone itself will intercept the call. You won't hear anything, and it will literally make the caller identify themselves and state the purpose of their call before the call will start to call through for you to pick up. And then it will give you a notification text of what the user has said.
I'm gonna look into that. I did not know that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
it's made my phone so much quieter. It's lovely.
that sounds great. Yeah, I mean, it's done a good job of like likely spam or whatever, but it makes it easier. But I'm gonna look into that. That's nice. That's a nice feature.
Okay. With that, our next story, Anthropic's new cybersecurity model could get it back in the US government's good graces. Anthropic is
Oh,
reportedly making significant progress in repairing its relationship with the US government following a high-level meeting at the White House between CEO Dario Amodi and government officials. The catalyst appears to be Anthropic's new cybersecurity focused AI model, which builds on the lessons learned from the controversy surrounding our friend that we talked about at the very top of the podcast, Mythos, the model that was temporarily restricted by the Pentagon after concerns about its capabilities. The new model, described as having enhanced cybersecurity safeguards built into its architecture, represents Anthropic's attempt to position itself as a trusted partner for government cybersecurity operations rather than a potential risk. The model incorporates automated security checks, red teaming capabilities, and guardrails designed to prevent misuse while maintaining the analytic power that made the Mythos preview attractive to threat actors. Government officials are reportedly satisfied with Anthropic's approach, which includes greater transparency about the model's capabilities, more rigorous safety testing, and closer collaboration with federal cybersecurity agencies. This matters because the government's stance on AI's models has a massive impact on the commercial industry. When the Pentagon restricts a model, it creates uncertainty around the company's entire product line. Customers worry about future restrictions, regulations, etc. Anthropic's ability to walk back from what happened with Mythos demonstrates the government's willingness to work with AI companies that demonstrate responsible deployment practices. So, what could you be doing or should you be doing right now? We'll monitor what Anthropic is releasing. They just released Opus 4.7, so something else that's just a little bit better. And watch for the official release of new cybersecurity models. And elevate its capabilities against your current threat detection tools. Stay informed on government AI policy, assess your AI vendor risk, and prepare for increased AI regulation because it is coming left, right, and center. Um, right now, the layer cake in the United States, some states are coming up with some really goofy AI laws or proposed laws. So it's going to get interesting real quick here in the next 12 months, I think. Cowboy,
Nothing makes me feel more comfortable than a politician that knows nothing about a particular
right?
subject and then makes laws about it. I'm laughing on the inside because this is a sensitive subject for us to discuss.
Just walk
Um,
around it carefully.
Look, I think a company going the extra mile to showcase the need, want, and determination to incorporate cybersecurity is nothing but goodness. Uh, I try not to jump fast at fallout or what comes out in the news because 99% of the time they don't have all the information, and I certainly don't, and because I wasn't in the meeting. So
Right.
it is what it is, and they can work it out. But the companies taking the steps to secure these models, which we have talked about and have talked about at least some sandboxed and a few non-sandboxed examples of just what could happen. We, they've got to get after it now, and I think Anthropic's trying to do that, and I
Hmm.
hope others are as well.
Yeah, I have appreciated Anthropic's approach to a lot of things. Um, I d- I think that what happened with Mythos is concerning. I don't think that it was purposeful, but I think I've touched on this on the podcast before, where
Mhm.
companies are running at speed and not considering the security ramifications of building these models. And there's a potential drift that if you miss something in one model, when it replicates and updates to the next model, then that just becomes now part of its logic flow, which if it was told to ensure stability and security, it might interpret that in a different way because it's reasoning its way out of what you've asked it to do, right? Stuff like that. So I like that they've added some cybersecurity and some guardrails in here. We'll see what that actually does over time and if it's useful or if it's going to get jailbroken or whatever. But yeah, I mean, taking a level of, I don't want to say pause, maybe some sort of accountability and saying, yeah, we need to kind of like put a fence around this that is sound is not terrible. There's plenty of open weight and open source models that are fully unrestricted or jailbroken that had guardrails that can already do all sorts of wonderfully terrible things, right? So at least this is one company, and I'm not suggesting others are not, but this is one company that's attempting to ensure frontier models are well behaved, which I think is probably a good thing. Yeah, yeah, I'll leave it
I
on that.
mean, you say well behaved, right? I mean, it's no different than the government doing a background check on a person that it's hiring. Like
Sure.
AI, these big models is literally like you're hiring a couple hundred people at the same time,
Oh, probably more than that, my
right?
friend. Like Mythos,
And
it was rumored to have
uh,
10 trillion tokens
no, yeah. So you're just
or 10
doing
trillion
some
credit or
background
something.
checks,
Yeah.
right? We're looking at the AI psyche, right? Like,
Yeah.
is Mythos gonna go badass crazy, or is he gonna be all right and stay within the guardrails that we've created uh, for them? It is a wild time to sit here and look at how we have to treat some of these really big models because there is a human aspect. I think the cowboy thinks there is a human aspect in some of these large AI models that is a factor in the overall equation.
Well,
And I'm not sure we know how to handle it yet.
the human aspect of it is it's trained on our data. So it, for better or worse, it's incorporated through the corpus of information, the morality of that information. Whether people like to admit that or not, that's going to happen, right? And you could debate whether these systems have any level of understanding that, or if they're just still doing the what's the next most likely word, right? Like, okay, sure. Um, but yeah, we're getting to a point where I think it's going to get interesting. And I'll leave it at that. All right. On our last story, Dell and NVIDIA turn AI infrastructure into the new power center of enterprise tech. Dell and NVIDIA have announced a strategic partnership that positions AI infrastructure as the central platform for enterprise technology, combining Dell's PowerScale storage systems with NVIDIA's DGX high performance computing systems. The collaboration is designed to provide organizations with integrated solutions for developing, training, and deploying AI models at scale. Dell's PowerScale platform provides the massive storage capacity needed for AI training datasets, while NVIDIA's DGX systems deliver the GPU compute power required for model training and inference. Together, they create a turnkey AI infrastructure stack that addresses one of the biggest bottlenecks in enterprise AI adoption: the complexity of integrating storage, compute, and networking components. The partnership also includes software integrations for managing AI workloads across the stack, automated scaling capabilities, and pre configured reference architectures that reduce deployment times from months to weeks. This matters because this partnership signals that the AI infrastructure is no longer a niche concern for tech companies, it's becoming the central platform for all enterprise technology. Organizations that haven't invested in AI infrastructure are at risk of falling behind as competitors leverage faster AI development cycles. The integration of Dell and NVIDIA's offerings addresses the storage compute bottleneck that has been the primary constraint in AI adoption. You can have the fastest GPU in the world, but if your storage can't feed the data fast enough, your AI training data is bottlenecked. So, what can or should you be doing right now with regard to this? Well, evaluate your AI infrastructure readiness and assess whether your current storage and compute systems can support your AI workloads. Or do you need to invest in more AI ready infrastructure? Review your data architecture. AI training requires massive data sets, and ensure your storage systems can handle the throughput and capacity requirements. Plan for expanded attack surfaces. And AI infrastructure introduces new components and data flows that need security monitoring, and monitor for vendor lock in risks. Integrated stacks from Dell and NVIDIA offer convenience, but may create dependencies that limit your future flexibility. Cowboy?
Yeah. I'm thinking back to the late 1900s, early
Oh my
2000s,
God.
when we were looking at computing bottlenecks, right? First it was RAM, then it was the bus speed, right? And it's the same thing all over again, but for AI. And honestly, I like this article because I never thought about the storage. I'm not an AI engineer, so take that with a grain of salt. But I never thought about the storage aspect of, oh, how fast can you actually feed it information?
Right.
I was kind of like, oh, a second story around an interesting thought of like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Um, you know, Star Trek Next Generation, one of my favorites, or pick your sci-fi movie where a cyborg robot, whatever term you want to use, is like reading fast, and they're like more information, right? More information faster. That's basically what this is,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They need access to the data faster, not the ability to process it faster, which is a little cart before the horse if you think about it. I think, but a very interesting aspect.
So, real world example, small world example, right here in the digital sock, right? I've run into that issue of bottlenecking just in inference, where yeah, I have more than enough compute memory, AI compute memory, whether it be GPU or unified or whatever, depending on the platform I'm on, to handle the models that I've been using. But originally, and it'll make some people cringe out there, I had the models themselves loaded from SATA SSDs. Cringe if you want to, it's okay. So I moved the primary models over to NVMe storage just to get faster to first token from load. Because I mean, that delay really, I mean, for the stuff that I'm doing here in the digital SOC, and it's not mission critical, but I can easily see how, those lost seconds add up, and at a corporate level, at an enterprise level, those lost seconds add up to a lot of money for people. So
Hmm.
I get it. I get it very clearly. Yeah, 100%, as Cowboy would say,
Yeah,
100%.
100%. And shout out to Short Circuit with Johnny Five reading the
More
encyclopedia is like
data,
more input.
more input. Yes.
Input.
That's another throwback to the 80s. So Spaceballs.
Yes.
Spaceballs is coming out too. The new one.
Spaceballs 2,
No, it's
The
not.
Search for More Money,
No,
but it's
no.
not called that. I
It's
know,
not
it's
called.
so
It's
bad.
called
It's
Spaceballs, the new one. That's where they're gonna go with it. I saw that teaser from Mel Brooks today, and it's not coming out until 2027. So that's a little
is this
disappointing.
year, this time next year, we're a year out still.
It's still a year
It's
out. It's
sad. It's
crazy.
sad,
Cowboy, what
but
else you got for
I'm
us?
excited. All right. To close out the night, they didn't just drop payloads, they deployed infrastructure inside your infrastructure. I'm Cyber Cowboy. Stay frosty, everybody.
And I'm the professor of CyberRisk. That's all the news for this week, and we'll talk again soon. If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.